everyone who collects Lego, especially Star Wars Lego, probably has a Millennium Falcon somewhere.
Or several.
Or several. Why not have...
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars Explained Weekly Q&A. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. We're catching up on news. We're going to answer some lingering Tales of the Empire questions, but this is our first show after May the 4th, which was over the weekend, so we like to go over our weekend and what we've been up to, and last week had a lot going on, so let's talk about that.
We were very busy last week.
It was a fun May 4th. Fun and busy.
Yeah, it's always busy, especially because my birthday is on May 1st. So we went and did Star Wars trivia at a bar for my birthday, and it was a lot of fun. And we had a perfect game until I ruined it on the last question.
You keep trying to take credit for this, but you didn't ruin it. The last question was a box office question, which is definitely not any of our strong suits. Like, I felt like we had such a good team, and everyone had different kinds of knowledge. I was really impressed with how we were doing, and then no one knew box office. Also, the question was like not adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange question.
It was a tough question, but we had a perfect game up until that point, and we were like, let's just bet all our points. Let's go big or go home.
It was one of those kind of trivias where the last question you can bet up to 15 points. So that's what we did.
You wrote the number 15 down, but you act like you went rogue and did it on your own. Like, we were all on board with
Everyone was like, it's your birthday, what do you want to do? And I was like a couple beers in at that point, and I was like, let's do it, go for it.
Everyone was in support of that decision. We did. The first thing we did on May 1st was lose Star Wars trivia.
Welcome to Star Wars Explained.
Welcome to Star Wars Explained. But on May 4th, that was a crazy day because had to wake... Well, first of all, it was your birthday party on May 3rd, so we were up real late. Up late enough that...
You were up later than I was.
Yeah, I was up until past 3 a.m., and then I was like, hey, I could just go ahead and start working on Tales of the Empire, and I sat down to do it, and I was like, this is dumb, and I went to sleep. And
I came in his office that morning, and there was an empty beer can on his desk, and I was like, did you come up here and try to work at 4 a.m. after everybody left the party? And you were like, yeah.
Yeah, I did. So instead, I just took basically a little nap, and then woke up and covered Tales of the Empire. And in the middle of that, the Acolyte released a new trailer.
Which is amazing, but enough.
Yeah, like, slow down, Lucasfilm. I made a joke about it in the trailer breakdown that I eventually got out on Sunday. It's like, it's my job to keep up with this stuff, and I cannot do it. So we didn't get the breakdown done for that because we had plans to go to my parents' basement, which is not my literal parents' basement. It's a bar/comic book shop we go to all the time because it was free comic book day on top of everything else. So we had some comics to get to.
Oh my gosh.
So we made it there, but kind of late because of Tales of the Empire, and we got one of the free comic books, like literally the last copy for the Young Jedi Adventures. And we hung out there for a little bit, and there was another comic book shop like 15 minutes away, which we had enough time to get there and then get to our Phantom Menace screening. So I was like, let's go try it. We show up, they didn't have it either. But there was like this guardian angel who was just browsing the comic book shop, heard me ask about it, and he was like, oh, I read it already. Like, do you want it? And I was like, thank you so much. So thank you, kind stranger. And then he faded into the mist.
Yeah, he floated away.
So I was excited to get both of those. Then we had to go to our Phantom Menace screening.
Yeah, which was great. It was a late show because the Plaza Theater had been home to the Atlanta Film Festival for the past month or so. So they were doing like a big Indie Festival event there. And so our showing couldn't be until 10 p.m.
Yeah, so it was a late night showing, but we knew that going in. We really wanted to support the Plaza because it's this great theater in Atlanta that basically is just it's got one big theater, but they show a bunch of old movies in addition to showing current movies. It's just a really cool vibe.
A lot of little theaters, and then one big one.
Smaller theaters, but like the one big main theater. it's just a great vibe there. I feel like the people that go see movies there just love the movies. And so we were like, that's the crowd we want to see the Phantom Menace with. But yeah, by that point, we were just dead tired and met several people in the line who recognized us. So I apologize for my tiredness, first of all.
Well, we were okay when we first got in line, but we ended up waiting, which there's a good reason why we waited. But at the time, we were like, geez, what's taking so long? We didn't actually get into the movie theater until
10:30. Like, the showing was supposed to start at 10.
Yeah.
They didn't let us in until 10:30. Also, we had just grabbed McDonald's on the way over, like, just in a rush. And I was literally shoving handfuls of French fries in my mouth over the trash can right outside
like
the
gremlin.
plaza. Yeah. That was
You were
not
like,
my
these aren't
finest
even
moment.
good.
Yeah, they were cold. They weren't good. And I was just like shoving. I was hungry. So then I was tired and my stomach hurt. And I was just like, oh man, it's starting to be like a rough end to May 4th.
It was hot, sweaty. Everybody in line was getting kind of antsy.
But then they let us in. And then still, like, it was taking a little bit of time to get going. And we were like, what's going on? And before the showing starts, they were doing like this kind of little skit. They basically did something to be like, everyone get your phones out. Because the owner of the theater was going to be like, I'm going to do my lightsaber routine I've been practicing. Get your phones out. And so everyone...
He was like, I'm going to make a fool of myself. Get ready.
So everyone did. And then instead of doing that, he was like, actually, I could use some training. Please welcome Ewan McGregor to the stage. And everyone's just yelling, what? Or various obscenities like, oh my God, and standing up and cheering. But yeah, Ewan McGregor was at our showing of The Phantom Menace.
So crazy. One of our friends has friends who were there that day for like the film fest. And he was like, I heard rumors about someone showing up. We don't know who. So we were kind of like, I wonder if someone's actually going to be here from the movie. And we didn't know who it was going to be. So when Ewan McGregor walked out, we were like, oh my God.
We heard the rumors and I was like, nah, I doubt it. Like, more just, I don't want to get my hopes up. But
he said he was in Atlanta filming something with Anne Hathaway. That's all we heard, so.
But he stood up there and did Q&A for like 40 minutes.
Yeah. Was
super fun and charming, as expected. Had a lot of great things to say. He was also very candid, which was fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't a Star Wars Celebration interview. So he was like, swearing and stuff, and just seemed like really chill and casual, and was answering fun questions.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was such a nice surprise, and it really woke everybody up.
Oh yeah, I was instantly like, I am no longer tired. I'm feeling great. I'm ready to watch The Phantom Menace, which was a blast to watch with that crowd.
Yeah, it really was.
But yeah, want to shout out the Plaza Theater because it's just a great place. Also, Wax and Wayne is the company that puts on those screenings, and they work really hard. So thank you for the screening. Thank you for that experience. Like, we of course tweeted like, oh my God, Ewan McGregor is here. And then major Twitter outlets were spreading it around like it was news. Yeah. I mean, it is worth sharing, I think.
It was pretty cool for him to show up to a Phantom Menace screening on May 4th.
It's just funny. Like, it's not something that I think about, like, this is gonna take Twitter by storm.
Yeah, we were just, like, excited to tell people about it.
And then after the movie, I was like, oh my God, we have a lot of notifications. That was our May 4th. We got home at, like, 2:30.
Very late.
After the movie finally started.
That was a good night of sleep for us.
Oh, yeah. That felt real good.
We're going to be back at the Plaza next Friday because they're doing a showing of the original Batman.
And my thought was like, oh, I wonder who they're going to bring to that screening and surprise us. And I was trying to make a Star Wars joke about it. And I was like, oh, wait, Garrick Hagan's in that. So Plaza Atlanta, get on it. Bring Garrick Hagan.
That's the only reason Alex is coming with me.
Yeah, I just want to see Garrick Hagan on the big screen.
Biggs and Porkins.
Yeah, William Hootkins is also in it. You're right. Also, got a bit of a wardrobe upgrade that I totally meant to wear from the start. But Roosevelt's sent us some of their May 4th drop. This video wasn't sponsored by them or anything like that. They were just like, hey, do you want some shirts? And I was like, yeah. And they sent us 7. And this one's awesome. It's got little Darth Mauls on it, and some of them he's cut in half.
When I first saw you wearing that one the other day, I was like, oh, cute little Maul. And then I was like, oh no, he's in half in some of these.
It's very cute. /awesome /rad. Before getting into questions, we wanted to catch up a bit on some news that came out this past week as well surrounding Skeleton Crew. The Acolyte isn't even here yet, but we're getting some Skeleton Crew news finally, honestly. So first, John Watts said that it's currently planned for a December release, which I think that's what we had heard when it got delayed from the end of last year. Rumor was it was going to be pushed an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pushing my theory that this is going to be a Life Day centric movie or series.
I hope that it is. I hope you're right.
I think that would be really fun. But like, if they wanted it to be a holiday release and wanted it to be that so bad that they pushed it 12 months, that I could see it being like the kids get whisked up on this adventure and their parents are like, oh, we got to get the kids home for Life Day. Add some like stakes to it, but also make it feel like a holiday series while we're in the holiday season.
Sure. I mean, Book of Boba Fett, they kept saying December for that one, and it came out December 31st.
Right, which it very well might do that. Or maybe it'll come out on, I think, December 24th is a Tuesday, so it might be like Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Collider also reported that the show is going to use stop motion by Phil Tippett and old school matte paintings, which I like that news a lot.
Me too. That gets me so excited because it's already been touted as this like Amblin type movie that's gonna feel very 80s kind of Goonies style, and then going back to the origins of Star Wars and doing something with stop motion with Phil Tippett has me super psyched.
Doing that and matte paintings just to kind of give it like that 80s feel, I think is smart and fun. And I should point out also that on Tales of the Empire, they talked about how they used models and matte paintings for that as well. It wasn't all animation on screen.
Yeah.
And didn't even notice, like wouldn't have guessed. So that's how good it all looked. So I wonder if we're going to see matte paintings and I won't even realize it.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, the Tales of the Empire, one of the mountain shots of Dathomir was an actual model that was painted. I'll see if I can find the image of that, but didn't even cross my mind that that's what that would be because we're watching an animated show. But yeah, I think it's going to look great.
It just excites me to be going back to, yeah, we can do it all in CG, but like we want it to have that old school feel. And they've kind of messed around with that in The Mandalorian as well. I remember IG-11 kind of looked like he was stop motion. The Bomar Monk in Book of Boba Fett looked a little stop motion, but I figured that was CG animated to look that way. So to have some actual stop motion on screen again, I think is fun. And more Phil Tippett's always good.
Didn't Phil Tippett work on the creepy little guy on Mandalorian that was sucking all the fluids out of Din?
I think so.
What a gross thing to say.
Yeah.
But he looked kind of stop motion-y.
Yeah. Like I do think that The Mandalorian wants to keep that spirit in mind. And maybe that stuff was stop motion. I don't know. And maybe they just didn't advertise it the way Skeleton Crew is. Today's video is brought to you by Arena Club. As you all probably know, I have a pretty large Biggs Darklighter collection. I've got just about everything out there with Biggs's face or name on it, so when I go out to conventions, the main thing I have left to search for is trading cards. I've got a lot of them, but there are still more to find. Arena Club is a trading card marketplace where collectors can grade, collect, buy, sell, or trade their cards. They've got a ton of Star Wars cards to choose from, as well as Star Trek, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Marvel, DC, you name your fandom, and it's on there. And of course, you can get baseball, basketball, football, or other sports cards too, if that's your thing. You know the first thing I did was hop on to search for a New Big's Darklighter card, and right away, I found one I didn't have. The grade was listed at the top, and it quickly became mine. You can find tons of minor characters for you or maybe your friends. There are signed cards, concept art cards, all kinds of cards for whatever you might collect. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/Star Wars. That's 10% off anything in the marketplace or on Arena Club's slab packs. That's arenaclub.com/Star Wars for 10% off your first purchase. Moving into our first question of the week, John Baptiste Howe and Pob ask for our thoughts on Rebuild the Galaxy and wonder if we have any hopes for what-if scenarios. So that's the other piece of news we needed to catch up on. Was that in September 13th, I think we're getting a 4-part, basically Star Wars Lego What If series. Mm-hmm. And that took everyone by surprise. I wasn't expecting anything like that at all.
Yeah, me neither. I love this idea, though. Like, it kind of, because it was such a surprise, I was like super excited about it because, yeah, it is basically What If in Star Wars. And because it's Lego, I almost like that better because you know it's going to be hilarious and you know they can just do more with it.
Yeah, I think that Lego is the right place to do something like this. I know some people were not happy with that fact, that they wanted it to be more in line with, I guess, everything else, like animated or live action or something. I think that Lego is a good place for it because it's not going to raise as many questions about what does this mean for everything else. It's like not much. Like,
yeah,
some of the Lego stories and specials they've done, I do think we can take from it and say, that might have happened in the real galaxy, but everything here, I'm like, it's just gonna be fun. I don't think that they're introducing a multiverse into Star Wars. There's just gonna be a fun element of this where, like, oh gosh, all the sets broke and then rebuilt into something crazy.
Yeah, it's a very gray area as far as canon is concerned. I don't think you should ever go into a Star Wars Lego special like this thinking about canon. You know, you can make something your head canon, but none of it is going to be hard canon.
Yeah, like I usually will kind of pick things out after a special airs. For example, Finn being very confirmed to be a Jedi and Obi-Wan calling him a Jedi. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I like that, and I'm going to keep that up here until it's proven wrong.
Right.
I'm not expecting to really do that on this special. I'm just expecting to have fun and be like, hey, we got Darth Jar Jar.
Yes. Oh, people were so hyped about that. I remember posting about it on Instagram and people were like, what? And they're doing it?
To have Ahmed Best come back to, because he's kind of played around with that whole theory.
Hashtag Darth Jar Jar has been in a lot of his posts.
Ever since that theory came up, he's had a lot of fun with it and suggested that, yeah, there were more plans for Jar Jar in the prequel trilogy. I don't think he was going to be a Sith or anything, but I'm excited that he gets to do that. Kind of for a second time, because he got to do that in Robot Chicken as well.
Yeah.
But happy to have him back. Mark Hamill's coming back. Bobby Moynihan is playing Jedi Bob.
Love that.
Yeah.
Like, old school Lego fans will know who that is.
Yeah, that's another character that I was like, oh, we're going all the way here. Which I think they announced a minifig of him was coming, and people were like, really? Why? But now we know why. And
oh yeah, before this.
And there were some rumors of like a dark Millennium Falcon, and it's like, okay, now we know why.
Yeah, this is such a cool idea. You know, ultimately Lego wants to sell Lego sets, and I think this is a cool way to do that and to give us something new and something different. You know, everyone who collects Lego, especially Star Wars Lego, probably has a Millennium Falcon somewhere.
Or several.
Why not have a dark one?
Yeah.
Empire version of it.
And it's like, yeah, we just have to make the pieces black instead of gray. There, you finally got your wish. We're going to get a UCS black Millennium Falcon.
Not a UCS one. The Rebel AT-ATs looked cool too.
Yeah, as far as the second part of this question, like, do we have any what-if scenarios for it? I don't know. Like, a lot of them just seem to be having fun with the idea of like, oh, Ewoks are flying wooden Y-wings, and it just seems like a mix and match a little more than everything being a what if Jar Jar were bad.
Yeah.
We're definitely getting that, and I'm sure there's going to be more of that, but
we saw Geonosians wielding lightsabers.
right, what if the Geonosians were the Jedi? And so there's definitely some fun ideas, but I don't think they're going to go deep into, oh, what if Luke and Leia swapped places at birth? What if Bail and Brejo Organa wanted a son instead of a daughter? I don't know if they're going to do stuff like that so much.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any hard expectations for this or any hopes even, really, because I kind of just want to go into it fresh and not expecting anything or not hoping for anything.
I just think it's going to be a fun, silly ride, and I look forward to that. So I haven't thought about any specific scenarios that I want to see, and any that I thought up would probably be silly.
It'd be great if Biggs were in it somewhere.
Yeah. What if Biggs lived?
Yeah.
There we go. Moving into some Tales of the Empire questions, Irish Nexus and Mamoru ask what Pellaeon was doing in the Tales of the Empire shorts because they're not supposed to meet until the book Thrawn Treason. Thrawn and Pellaeon. I hadn't even noticed that at first. Well, first,
I definitely didn't notice that.
When we watched it first, we thought it was Wolf Yularen.
Yeah.
Just because I see a white Imperial with a white mustache, I'm like, oh, it's Yularen. And I guess because I thought, like, in the back of my mind, it couldn't be Pellaeon. And then at the end, I was like, oh, it's Pellaeon. And Xander Berkeley's still playing him. Neat. And I didn't think beyond that. I haven't read Thrawn Treason since it came out. So I did look into this, and I know there was like a decent amount of discourse about it online. I feel like I missed most of it.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about this, so I definitely missed it.
But I'm going to go with this. That in Thrawn Treason, Pellaeon is under the command of Admiral Savitt and Grand Admiral Savitt, and so maybe he was a spy for Thrawn. Like, that seems like a very old expanded universe hand-wavy thing to say, oh, he was actually a spy the whole time. I mean, in reality, it's just that Dave Filoni wanted Pellaeon to be there.
Yeah.
The end.
Right.
And then after the fact, it's kind of like the Lambda shuttle, Tydirium getting stolen twice in Legends. It's like, okay, they stole it, and then the Empire took it back. And then they stole it again. The exact same shuttle, like a big tug of war game over this one Imperial shuttle. So I'll just say that there's probably something where Thrawn and Pellaeon met, and then Pellaeon, before he was fully working with Thrawn, went and worked as a spy for Grand Admiral Savitt. The book, from what I skimmed back through, it definitely seems like they're meeting for the very first time in that book, but we'll say they were just putting on an act. Yeah,
this goes into that same category of just things that are going to continue to happen, little changes, and it has to do with that hierarchy of like the animated stuff is higher on the hierarchy of content coming from Star Wars than the books and comics. So,
which I get the frustration, because the whole idea of being like, we're resetting the canon, and then they kind of said it's all gonna fit and canon hierarchies aren't a thing anymore, and people were excited about that. I was excited about that. It definitely seems like, you know, live action and then animation and then books and comics. It's like we have to kind of work backwards and smooth out the wrinkles sometimes.
Yeah, it just, you know, I just wish fans could be a little more flexible in their thinking.
Yeah.
Because we have to be flexible and know that human beings are in charge of all this, and there are going to be some inconsistencies and some, maybe this happened instead of this for like some little stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not a super big deal.
Yeah. It's just the nature of a universe like this. It happened a lot in Legends too, like I said. So we were hoping for it to not happen in canon, and it hasn't happened a ton, But every time it does, yeah, there's just that moment of like, oh man, oh well. Like I said, I missed this one when it happened in the Bad Batch, for example. I was like, but I really like that comic and how it all went down there. But oh well, I'll take a step back. I'll try to find a rationalization and I'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
Ooby Dooby Banooby asks why Marin was able to... I chuckled before reading the name, and then I was like, I know Molly's going to laugh. Ooby Dooby Banooby has a great name and asks why Marin was able to keep using Nightsister magic while Morgan seemingly lost it.
So I saw a Twitter thread from Ruthless Nightsister on Twitter today talking about this. It was more about like why she got to keep her face markings and all that kind of stuff. And it made sense to me that Morgan was maybe just human and not Dathomirian.
I would maybe agree with that. It does seem like... So I got to do an interview with Diana Lee Inosanto, and she mentioned some of the reading she did and some of the watching she did. She said she watched Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, like the movie on YouTube, and she read the short story Bug, which was written by Ian Convery, who is also married to Dave Filoni and might have some inside information. And people have been speculating on whether or not that could connect to Morgan's story. I don't know that it does, but there is a reason that she read it. And in that story, it is about a girl who wasn't a Nightsister, but became one. So Nightsisters would accept outsiders. And I think that maybe it was that she was like gifted the tattoos and then she lost them after the fact. Yeah. And we did see her mother in the short. So there is that. And I assume it was biological mother. So now I have to grapple with that. But
I mean, maybe she was human too. We don't know.
Maybe. I kind of wondered if it was because she had been separated from not just her people, but where they lived. So the Mountain Clan took her away and they were like, the spells of the Nightsisters are broken. So I wonder if it could have been like a proximity thing. I mean, for symbolism, it's just her losing her identity. Yeah. And it also explains why she doesn't have markings in the show. But Marin was left behind, thought she was the only survivor, and stayed in that area. So I'm like, maybe she was able to keep her facial tattoos, continue building her own power, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because Morgan was so young, she couldn't hold on to the magic.
I'd say Marin was even younger, but yeah, I do think there's...
like you said, Marin stayed on Dathomir.
Right. I think that there's probably a reason and we just don't know it yet. And yeah, Morgan looks far more human than any of the other Nightsisters we've seen. And that could play into it. I also think that as far as the magic goes, I don't think she lost it. Because we see her doing magic in Ahsoka. It's nothing huge, but like the green flames are there. Yeah. I kind of figure she stopped using Nightsister magic because she wanted to survive and hide. And it wasn't something she should be running around shooting green flames out of her hands. Sure. Yeah. So in my head, she didn't like lose her magic abilities. She's just like, I'm going to keep them on the DL.
Well, she kind of gives up her identity, like you said, of being a Nightsister. And in doing that, maybe loses a hold on the magic that was making her look like a Nightsister, whereas Marin never did that.
I like the symbolism of that, of just Morgan fading away from who she was, not because she wanted to, but then getting so determined and dead set on revenge. Although Marin does that too. Marin does that too for a while. So,
yeah. She's also, like, she has like a little tattoo or something like up on the, so that stays because it was there in the show and we all think she's just a human.
Yeah, it may come down to those things where we don't know if she was a Nightsister when she was first introduced, but like that was a prevalent theory right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the fact that she didn't have markings, they had to find a way around that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're here trying our best to reconcile both.
I'm sure they'll explain it at some point. At least I hope they do. But also, I'm just like, there's not a good way for us to give you guys like a hard answer for this. So we're just spitballing.
Right. We don't know. And to me, I like the symbolism of her losing her identity more because she does. Here's something Marin doesn't do. She does go and work for the Empire. And I think that is, a long con to eventually take her revenge. But that's a further loss of her identity. Whereas Marin is, once she figures out that the Empire was responsible, ultimately, she's like, all right, I'm going to kill you all for a little while.
Yeah. And she stays dedicated to being a Nightsister.
Yes. Moving over to the Acolyte, Diabologist asks if the masked character could be a Knight of Ren. So yeah, we talked about the fact that a new trailer came out, and we haven't really mentioned it other than that on this video. Loved the trailer. Already did a breakdown about it if you want to watch that. But what do you think about the new... Force Center has been calling him Darth Teeth.
Yeah.
I like that name.
I love his design. He does strike me as a similar to design to the Knights of Ren, which I think is fine. Maybe it's related, but I just like how creepy it looks. It does look like he's got this big, weird, toothy smile. It honestly reminded me of, I don't know if it's official artwork, but there's an image of Abeloth floating around on Wikipedia that has like a big, creepy looking smile. So if they took some inspiration from that, that would be cool. But I love his design. Something you told me about some of the history of the Knights of Ren from the comics makes me think maybe he's related to them.
Yeah, so the Knights of Ren have been around for quite a while, and I believe it was in the Crimson Reign comics, Kira approaches them and their current leader, who is named Ren, and says something like, the Knights of Ren used to be something, and now look at you. She's like, you all kind of suck now.
Which is a great burn.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't say, those aren't the exact words. But if we go back 150-ish years or so, it could be that that's a Knight of Ren, more when they were something a little bigger. I'm personally hoping it is a Sith. Yeah. I think that that's the more interesting story decision for the Jedi to run into one, and then after all is said and done, still be like, no, the Sith are extinct. And just kind of like...
brush it under the rug with all the other weird stuff going on.
I think that thematically lines up with how the Jedi wind up in the Phantom Menace, how they act in the High Republic books and comics. So that's kind of what I would prefer to see. But if it is a Knight of Ren, like the design does look that way. We're both calling the Sith or whatever a he, and I'm like, I think in my head that's because I already suspect Khmer.
Yeah, everyone kind of has a different idea of who that could be under there. So I'll try to say they until we know who's under there. But yeah,
it could be literally anyone. But I'm like, Khmer said that line. He says peace is a lie. And I'm like, don't you try to sneak the Sith code in there.
I do, like you said, I hope it is a Sith, like a full-blown creepy eyes, creepy mouth Sith. I wonder how they can see out of that thing, though.
I mean, that's true of every Star Wars helmet.
Maybe they don't need to see.
Ooh, maybe they're blind.
Maybe it's a blind...
It's Chirrut.
character who is like so seeped in the dark side that they don't need eyeballs.
Could be. Could be. They also don't have teeth, and that's why it's on the helmet.
Yeah. Maybe they have resting bleep face.
Resting Sith face?
Yeah, resting Sith face, so they put a smile on their helmet.
Yeah, I think the design looks really cool. That like slow turn to the camera, very creepy. Yeah, I guess I'm assuming it is a member of the cast that we know about already, but who knows? Who's to say?
It could be anyone, like literally. Like I think they are purposely making the audience already, just with the trailers that they've put out, just question everyone's allegiances.
It would be interesting if it was a Sith, and then the Jedi could be like, nah, it's a Knight of Ren. Let's just say it's a Knight of Ren. They kind of look like a Knight of Ren. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.